Welcome to Find Me the Money. En este episodio vamos a hablar de cómo encontrar el dinero en tu divorcio. Bienvenidas. He estado estudiando español los últimos años, pero no tengo mucha seguridad. Y también he estado aprendiendo la cultura, pero me gustaría saber más. Jen Hemphill, thank you for being with us today. Jen is an award-winning podcaster, an accredited financial counselor, author, and speaker. Her mission is to help Latinas be more confident and simplify their finances so they can save more, get out of debt quicker, and build wealth. Jen's podcast, Dinero Matters, is focused on helping Latinas have increased confidence and control over their finances. She's been featured all over the place: Forbes, New York Times, Oprah Magazine, Good Company Magazine, NPR, and NBC News. And she's the author of a book entitled Her Money Matters: The Missing Truths from Traditional Money Advice. So Jen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Tracy. And I really love that you spoke Spanish. Me encantó, me encantó.
Thank you so much. I don't have as much confidence as I'd like, but I wanted to kick this episode off the right way because we are talking about money issues for Latinas. As you know, the Divorce Money Guide is a tool for women who are going through divorce. And it is important to me to speak to different cultures and different subsets of women who have special financial or marital and divorce concerns. So before we get into the interview, tell us where everyone is going to find you after they hear your wonderful advice.
Sure. On the podcast. If you're podcasting, you can look up my podcast, Dinero Matters, or just go to jenhemphill.com. And from there, you can find everything you need about me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here. I know that in some ways that Latinas have a unique experience with divorce because there are cultural differences. But of course, in many ways, divorce is the same for women. They often receive a smaller share of the marital assets than their husbands. They're at very high risk of poverty and homelessness after divorce, and their earnings are impacted significantly because they often shoulder a larger share of those child-rearing responsibilities. So when it comes to traditional Latina roles, I understand that there is, very often women are working both outside the home and they're taking care of family, including extended family. How have you seen this impact them when it comes to divorce?
It's tough because you're carrying so many roles. And I'm sure you know that the gender gap amongst the Latinas, when you compare all the women of all colors, we're at the bottom of that ladder, right? And a part of that, what influences that is that they're taking everyone else. So they may not be working. So if they're not working,
Right.
I'm sure, however they calculate that gender wage gap, that widens, right?
Right.
Or they have to take a pause in the career if they have a career and they take a pause to take care of kids, or I've done that, or to take care of parents because the family unit is so, in general, is so really close, and it's always about family. Not that it's not about family with other cultures, but it's just a very special, just taking care of each other.
Right.
And so that definitely influences all of that. And it's just important to really acknowledge that it's not only it is a lot, but it's just what they know, right? What
Right.
we know, like this is our culture. This is what we do. And then on top of that, you add if they came to the States, depending on when they came to the States. Maybe they were born in the States, right? And this is what has been taught. Maybe they came to the States like I did, when they were little. Or maybe they came to the States as an adult and they've had to start over, which is what my parents did, right? So that also has so many influences, right? In terms of what you do, because I was fortunate that my father, being an American, he knew the culture, and I was able to really, it helped ease the process. But still, I definitely sense the difference in the two cultures. And with my mom, it was even harder because she was an adult and starting over, and she's, has an education, and she really had to start literally over. So all those, and I know I went on a tangent. So reel me back.
Well,
because
it's
I
great.
might not have
No,
answered your question fully.
you did. And you got my mind going on a tangent because I started thinking about immigration issues at the time of the divorce and that there may be some concerns there. Am I staying in the US? Am I not staying in the US? Am I still going to have legal residency and things like that? And certainly that's got to add an extra discomfort to that divorce process.
Right. Well, and see, exactly. And plus, if they even know what the divorce process is, like where do they go? They might not know where that they go. And then there's the also other aspect that if they haven't been working or don't have quote unquote their own money, they might feel stuck.
Yes.
Right. And might not feel that they can go anywhere because if they go somewhere, they don't have money. Maybe they've been so, focus on the family and other things, it's going to maybe harder for them to, I don't know, get a job or whatever obstacles may be. So I think looking at one, do they really have an understanding of where to go if they need to go to a divorce, and really have an understanding of the whole process and what it entails, the costs, and what the potential possibilities of that can result as the divorce, right? And two is if they don't have their own money, they may feel stuck
Yes.
and
So
might not do anything.
if there is anyone listening who doesn't know how to begin that divorce process or what might go on in it, know that there are resources out there for you. There are legal aid societies that will help put you on the right path for divorce. You can oftentimes go to your county courthouse, ask there, where do I go to file for divorce? And there is usually someone there who will at least show you what forms you need and things like that if you're not in a position yet to get an attorney. So there is information out there for you. It is difficult, but there are some resources. Going back, I talk on my platform a lot to stay-at-home moms because they've given up their careers. And you mentioned not having a career at all or maybe putting a career on pause. And I find that financially, that can be very, very devastating. At the time of divorce, you are stuck trying to resume a career that you've had a pause in, and you might be behind on skills. You're certainly behind on earnings, or maybe even starting over from scratch with a brand new career. It seems to me that amongst Latinas, that might even be a bigger concern.
It can be, because again, the family unit is so strong that divorce is not necessarily an option, right? Now things are changing, right? I mean, this was way back then. It's changing, but depending on if they just recently immigrated, they may still have that mentality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because in our different respective Latin American countries, that again is also evolving, but depending on their upbringing and whatnot, it might not be like even a consideration. Like, this is it, we got married, this is it, until death do us part. So I think definitely, and now if they're a Latina that maybe was U.S. born, that might be a different case depending on what they may know and the understanding that they have of the system. So it really varies. And I think it's just important if you are a stay-at-home mom. I've done it. That was something that was very, very important to me. That you have some conversation and not be afraid, because it's a union, right? And every marriage is different, but it's a union, and not be afraid to have the financial conversation, to be in the know of what's going on with the finances, to contribute to those financial decisions, to really see, you have a huge role that is not paid. Why not? I mean, in our relation, and I can't speak to, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm just going to share with you, like, what we've done is that we had our own individual money. It's kind of like our own allowance, right? And do
Mm-hmm.
what you will, because it's really important. As adults, we came to that marriage as an independent individuals, and we want to maintain our autonomy. And a way to maintain our autonomy, our identity, who we are, a part of that is just having our own money, right? And if you're a stay-at-home mom, you can save that, you can spend it, you can do what you wish. I would say do a little bit of both.
Yes.
Definitely save and invest, but I think those things are just important. And if you haven't done that, it's not too late to start. It's not to say that you're doing it all wrong. No, you can change that. It's just a matter of changing what you're doing.
I am a huge fan of having your own money, but I want to draw a distinction between two separate things. One is where you and your husband each have some of your own money that you can kind of spend on whatever you like. And you kind of understand that's for your hobbies or your fun things, or you want to get some clothes, and nobody's bothered how you spend that money. On the other hand, there can be a situation where your husband is controlling you with money and giving you a kind of allowance where it's like you have X number of dollars and that's all you can spend on groceries and supplies for the kids and things like that. And that is financial abuse. When it goes in that direction where you are being controlled with money, that is financial abuse. And so if you're asking yourself which of those situations you're in, I say kind of trust your gut. If it feels icky, it probably is. If it feels equitable, where you and your husband are both having some of your own money, that's kind of your fun money spending as you choose, then that's probably okay.
Such a great distinction. I'm glad you brought that up.
It is. And it's not fun to talk about, but it's a reality that I want to bring awareness to. You know, there's so much shame surrounding divorce in general, surrounding financial issues in divorce. How has your work addressed the issue of shame and money?
With what I do with the shame and the money, we always have the discussion, whether on the podcast, on what I've done coaching or speaking or whatever, is about really having an understanding of your upbringing and understanding what you saw, what you observed, what you experienced, because that story, that memory has an impact on how you perceive money, how you manage money, right? All your relationship with money is really stems from that upbringing, because I know my upbringing, there was a lot of scarcity mentality. There was never any money. There was a lot of stress around money with my parents. So I when I became an adult, I was definitely a big saver. I was frugal to, I think, to a dangerous, not a, won't go like, I think it was a little extreme amount. I was afraid to spend money because I was afraid if I spent money, then we wouldn't have many money, and then we'd be in that same situation that we were when I was a kid, and that we didn't have money. I didn't want to repeat that. But we have to have an awareness, because if we don't have that awareness, then we continue to repeat the cycle. I repeated the cycle in terms of, no, we don't have the money. So we recreate that scenario of not having money because you end up spending it so you can, it's a weird cycle. So you have to have an awareness of that upbringing and how it's impacting you today, and see if you're repeating that cycle. Once you have that awareness, you're able to change. You change and really make a change in terms of your mentality, what your mindset is. And once you do that, things open up. And that also leads, because you mentioned shame, that will also help you understand any shame you feel around money. But also the shame that you feel around money, you also have to look at the habits, right? Your
Mhm.
habits, and those habits may be tied to your past money story. All right. So there's just all this conundrum and just cycles. So it's just, I think having awareness is really important, because if not, we're just going to repeat it.
So I understand that machismo is a problem within the Latino community, but I want to know what women can do to protect themselves financially for the possibility of divorce, even if they're currently in a happy and healthy marriage, in light of that issue.
To protect yourself, number one, yes, have your own money. Yes, you can have joint accounts. You have to do what's best for your marriage, for what you think is the best for the marriage. But I think having individual accounts is good, again, because of what we discussed earlier about the autonomy and the independence. And that just having those, I think also that I'm not saying that prevents divorce.
No.
I'm not saying that, but I think it helps a little bit, because you're each individually happy that you don't have to tell the other person, hey, I spent $20 here or $50 there. So
Right.
having your own money.
But okay, but your husband says, but I take care of the family and I'm in charge of this family. We have one account. Are there some strategies for managing that and having that conversation?
Yes, I think is when you have the conversation, because the money conversation, everybody shies away from the money conversation. But you have to, one, know your spouse. And if they are like that, instead of approaching, because money conversations, people typically think we have to talk about the bills, have to talk about the debt, we have to talk about all these things. No, you can have a money conversation, and it could be as simple as, okay, you're talking to your spouse and you're saying, hey, I know we're working towards X goal, right? And this is what we're doing. Ask, what else do you think we should do? Right? Have them provide some input, and you say, hey, what about, get involved, and what about if we do X? I think just getting their perspective, that opens up that money conversation. You're going to get to know your spouse because you're seeing, you have a better perspective of what they're thinking, right?
Uh-huh.
Because you may be assuming things because maybe you're not talking about money. And so your spouse is assuming one thing about you and you're assuming one thing about your spouse until you talk. I think also having a conversation, just getting, like, whether it's on date night, if that's, hopefully that's happening, and getting to know your spouse and their upbringing around money, right?
Uh-huh.
So you can have a better appreciation of each other, of like why maybe you're a saver and he's a spender, or vice versa. So there's something there. So I think those things will help. I think also, I think things are changing. Yes, machismo is definitely still here, but I think there's a lot of influence on social media. Latinas that are speaking, that are very, very independent, and I think um, seeing that also empowers other Latinas that maybe are in a relationship with someone that's very that has that machismo personality.
I like your idea of asking the questions. And then, I like always following up with a why. So how do you think we
Right.
should do this? Well, we should have one bank account and everything should go through there. Why do you feel it's important to have that? And hear their answer and then say, do you have a concern if we had some separate bank accounts? What would be your concern about that? And maybe he would tell you, my concern is that I wouldn't know what you're spending that money on. Well, if you were able to see those bank statements on a monthly basis and see exactly what I was spending the money on, would that make you more comfortable? Right. And as you continue, it's, a back and forth with those questions is what I have seen help move those issues forward.
Right. And I think, and with those questions, what it's doing, because with machismo, it's about the person wanting to feel important, right? And empower. And you're doing that in a way that's going to help you, if that makes sense, because asking them what their feedback or what they think, obviously they're, feeling, oh, yes, I am,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
the strong man. So I think, but also at the same time, it helps you. And I think it can also lead conversations that if you are, let's say, in a relationship where you are at home and your spouse doesn't want you to work, but you really want to work, those eventually, little by little, those conversations, well, if we want to reach X goal, I'm thinking I can do this. What do you think? Even though you're bound and determined that you're going to do, get the job or whatever it is. And look, I was doing some math, and look, if I make X at this job, look how much faster we can get to this. What do you
Right.
think? Again, you're putting them in a place of like, oh, what's what I'm thinking.
Right.
But you're also helping yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, people respond well when you're asking them for their opinion, right?
Yes,
When
they
they
do.
feel like you are valuing what they say and asking questions in a genuine fashion can impart that feeling on them.
Absolutely.
So, As we are nearing the end of this interview, I want to ask you about advice that you might have for women who feel like they've fallen behind on their finances, because that's a really big issue in divorce is women come out financially worse off than their husbands most of the time. And they really feel like, I don't have any money. I don't know if I'm going to pay the bills. I don't know if I can save for retirement. And they just feel like they've fallen behind. What are some great tips that you have for the woman who's in that position?
Number one, take behind out of your vocabulary, or in terms of what your situation. Your situation is your situation. You're creating a new chapter. So you're starting clean, right? So it's hard to not compare, and I get that. It's hard to not compare. But remember, you're just starting clean. What do you want your life to look like? Just do it in baby steps. If your first priority is whatever debt you may have as a result, then focus on that, right? If you can put to retirement, absolutely. You can do both, because if you're putting away for retirement now, there's the lovely magic of compound interest that's going to work for you. So it's
Yes.
not about being behind. It's about just doing you, and doing and reaching a level that you want to reach. What that looks like, it may not go as fast at the beginning. It doesn't matter. Just take small steps. Again, if it's debt that you're dealing with, see if what you can put aside, even if it's a little bit for retirement, it's better than nothing. And you've got compound interest that's going to help you. So that's what I would say, is just don't, because if you keep on thinking I'm behind, that's going to keep you behind, because that's a mindset, right? And your mind is working for you. Your mind wants to protect you. So if you're thinking, and I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I do know that it's kind of like a Monday that you've spilt your coffee, and you automatically think, what else can go wrong? And then something else goes wrong, right?
Yep.
That's your mind
Yep.
helping you, right? So if you're thinking I'm behind every single day, it's working against you. So that's why you need to just set that aside. Know that this is a new chapter in your life. You're going to kill it. You're going to do amazing. It's not the end of the world, right? Just keep moving, keep pressing.
Absolutely. It's about making progress.
Right.
Thank you so much for being here with me today. It was an awesome conversation. Tell us again where to find you.
JenHempill.com, or like I said, if you're listening to this podcast, just search on your podcast platform, her Dinero Matters.
And if you go to jenhemphill.com, make sure you sign up for Jen's email newsletter. She has awesome, awesome stuff in there.
Thank
you
you
so much again. It was great talking to you.
Yes, likewise. Thank you, Tracy.